Hey guys, it's West here, back with another episode of Laika Oreo. Today I'm super excited because we are in Raid 4, and we're going to talk about why we're in Raid 4 and how we're in Raid 4 in a moment, but first we're going to start this run-up. I am running with two teams on my main account, so if anybody's curious about that, I haven't talked about that yet. I'm going to talk about that on a From the Crumbs video, but you guys do get a little early access spoiler in the I Like a Oreo video, talking about how I have created a second R4 team so I can essentially carry the Laika account and any other account I need to along the way through R4, as long as they can hold their own a little bit. You can see the run it's decent speed. It's about a 2-minute time, 2-minute 10-second average. It's got as low as 145 before. But here's the Laika team. We'll go into it. Of course, we're running Darian and Bella in the front line because those are the tanky units that I have. They both have defense break on the first skill, so having revenge on one of them would be nice. But having both of them here makes it a little bit redundant. Having extra defense break is great, but I also have a defense break in Theo Mars's second skill. And you could also see here how I have Theo built. Theo is built on HP, crit damage, attack. Here are his substats. You can see no grinds or enchants. Same thing with Darian and Bella. You won't see grinds and enchants on anybody pretty much. The first round of grinds and enchants are going to go to Hua, in case anybody is curious. We have Konamaya here as a cleanser. Very fast on speed, HP, and defense. I tried to get 80% resistance just for the sake of survivability, although I have a Tessarian lead on my secondary team with my main account secondary team. I have Tessarian in there just for that resistance lead, 41%, so I only need 59% throughout this team to be at what is maximum efficiency for resistance, which would be 100%. I have Colleen here as our primary healer, or our more important healer, on speed, defense, HP as well. You can see I have speed, defense, HP on everybody because I want them all around 1,000 defense at least, even in the back line, especially in the back line. Because the front line is going to be built a lot more tanky, is going to be given a lot more tank priorities, so having defense on the back line is going to give them more survivability, and they'll have to rely a little bit less on the heals because they'll be able to survive a little bit more on their own. And then we have Hua here on speed, crit damage, HP. Now I don't have her on speed, crit damage, attack because I need her to survive. The most important thing she does here is reduce the attack bar. So even if we can't put her on a damage build, and we have her on a pretty decent damage build, or a pretty decent build to deal damage while still reducing the attack bar. But the most important thing here is her survivability, so she can consistently bring down the attack bar of the boss so that we can continue to reap the benefits of a slightly slower damage dealer, if that makes sense. So this is a pretty obtainable team in my opinion. You don't need Theo by any means, and you don't even need Hua, but it's pretty important to have the other 4 monsters here. They do pretty well. These are monsters I'm also going to be using in the Beginner's Guide series, a little spoiler for that too. I have them built up on here just because they're so efficient. Darian, extremely efficient. Defense break on 1, attack break on 2. Obviously, the damage mitigation is going to be huge, and we can afford to just put them on a very tanky build. Now, something I was going through with this team, some things that I was working out when I actually thought for myself instead of just copy and pasting teams that I've seen before, and I actually spent a decent amount of time thinking about turn order and thinking about what stats and stat thresholds you need to hit for maximum reliability, because for me, of course, efficiency mattered a lot more than the speed of this team, because if I can't clear this efficiently, it's just a waste of energy. So regardless of the team time, I don't just want to be sinking energy to gain whatever a 30-second reduction on my runs. Something that's super important when you have a passive-based monster, any sort of damage mitigator, which is going to be a passive-based monster usually, unless you're using shields or some strange active effects like that, which you could be, or just have really, really, really strong stats on your monsters. If you're using a damage mitigator like Darian, it's really important to have high HP and high defense, but it's also extremely important to have him at the resistance cap. The reason is the boss likes to apply Oblivion here. This is one of the reasons why Veramos is not a very efficient cleanser. He also doesn't provide any useful beneficial effects, so he's essentially useless if not for his cleanse, and his cleanse is almost never up because the boss likes to apply AoE Oblivion to your team. And when they apply Oblivion to your team, it means that your passives can't be activated, so your passive, like Darien, for example, his passive means nothing. So when he's Oblivioned, he is not mitigating any damage. So we want to keep the Oblivion off of him as much as we can. This means that he's going to have the damage mitigation up as much as possible. Now you could put him on revenge sets to get the defense break. I don't find that I really need it. It's nice to have it. I have a lot more accuracy on Darien than I want to. It's not on purpose. It just happens to be with the really tanky runes that I have, that I ended up with pretty tanky runes. I ended up with quite a bit of accuracy in the substats. It's not necessary. The accuracy cap for raid is 15% as far as we know, based on the accuracy resistance formula, which is, it's relatively reliable to stick with that. But I did want to get him to 100% resistance, so he's not being Oblivion that often. I didn't really aim for any resistance on my Hua, even though she is also passive based. The reason being, I really can't afford to with all the stats I need on her. If I got extra resistance, like with inbuilt subs, it could be crazy, because you could theoretically have 48% resistance inbuilt, which is, those would be crazy runes if you had inbuilt a max roll resistance, but on her stats, it was just about having her fast, faster than 200 speed, and giving her enough survivability for the backline. She's still a little bit squishy. I would like her defense to be more like 1200 for survivability, and then the HP at plus 10,000 is okay for me. Ideally, it would be 25,000 total HP, 1200 total defense, and then from there I start working on my damage stats. I do have some crit damage in these runes unintentionally. Now, when I get grinds and enchants, even though this is a really good rune and it's a legendary rune, I may very well enchant out the crit damage for HP. The reason is HP will end up being more efficient since it's something I can grind and it's something I could use in the future. This is a very efficient rune. This is not a good example of an obtainable rune for a raid team like this, but for this specific team, I've started to put my best runes on it because I want to be able to grind these, or to get these grinds and enchants, so I can put more stats on some of the units that need a lot of different types of stats. This rune's pretty efficient too. Again, this is another rune where the crit damage is coming off. Although this is a blue rune, so there's nothing holding me back from it. It's got built-in defense too. It's a pretty efficient rune. I'm probably going to enchant out the crit damage for HP, and then I'll grind the HP and the defense here. This rune's nice. It's another place where I could enchant out the crit damage, because crit damage, although it's giving me more damage to my Hua, it's not giving me more efficiency to my runes because I can't grind the crit damage. And a little bit of extra crit damage is nice, but you could see we have her on a speed crit damage HP build, so it's not like we're looking for the maximum amount of damage coming out of the Hua. We want Hua to do what she can do best and make sure that she survives so she can keep on doing it. Now, the crit damage is kind of nice because it's extra damage, but as long as we have her, in my opinion, as long as I have her on, as much HP, defense, and speed as possible, I'm happy. Any attack we get is probably going to just be from grinds. You would see the team does like to wipe during this last stage. This was likely because Darien got Oblivioned and we lost our damage mitigation. But my other two teams are going to clean it up just fine. So the runs are pretty reliable right now. It's about a 95-96% reliability in the 116 runs that I tested. I'm gonna start putting my numbers together after this video, and I'm gonna start making either spreadsheets or something like that, so I can better give you guys explanations. So we're gonna hop out of here, and we're gonna talk about why I'm trying to grind and enchant things, so you guys have a little bit of backstory to why I'm trying to be in raids. So recently we've collected all the monsters for the Doublelution, Double Talia Sabrina team. I talked about this in the last video, and since then we've 6-starred those monsters and actually managed to rune them all up, which is extremely exciting. But I've been through a lot of trial and error with this team, in terms of giving them the right amount of rune priority, giving them the right amount of stats, and working forward. So The biggest thing I ran into a massive brick wall face first. I don't have, obviously I don't have max towers. So that's a huge downfall. So my runes have to compensate for the lack of max towers and all this kind of stuff. I should rewind back a little bit. If you guys haven't seen this team yet, this is the one for all team. I call it the team that can be used for any dungeon. It's not my team. It's not my invention. I've seen it by a few higher ranking dungeon clearing players. There's a lot of cheaters on the leaderboard for giants, but there's some players on this list you'll see running this team, and they run it in every single dungeon, which is one of the reasons why it really caught my attention. What that means is you can I think I explained this in the last video as well. It means that you can essentially use your one team in everywhere, and you can consolidate your dungeon runes to only 5 monsters, essentially, which is really great because it means that you can use your other runes on PvP monsters. Wow, I'm struggling really hard to find the team on this list, but I found it on there, and I checked out their account because some of them are content creators, some of them rank highly in PvP, so you can go ahead and check out their runes sometimes. You'll find a lot of people on this list though, like this guy running Ethna and Chisoon and Wusa and the Wind Monkey. He getting his 24-second time. Sure, buddy. Okay, Vero and Bella, nice, whatever you say, man. But anyways, the double Lucian, double Talia, Sabrina team can be run in any dungeon, and my hope was to be able to pull that team off so that I can consolidate my runes into those monsters and not really have to worry about building other monsters for other teams, and that way I could focus more on the places in the game where it's more fun, for PvP areas, for things of that nature. So I don't think I'm going to be able to find anybody that I'm looking for on this list. But believe me, I promise I've seen it. Here we go. Bloody Claw. Runs the same team, runs double Lucian, Talia, double Talia, Sabrina. Just because it's super efficient, But the thing is, those players, they have max towers, they have fight runes, so I had to start doing math for compensating for fight runes. They usually only had one fight set. I saw only one fight set on one of the teams, which is the team that I wrote all my stats down for on paper. Anyways, I'm going to run the team here, and I'm going to do it in manual to show you guys what the ideal situation is, or the ideal scenario is for turn order and what everybody does, and talk about where I need to improve in terms of rune improvement. Surprisingly, the one place that I thought I was going to have to improve the most was my Lucians, and that's the place where I'm just barely getting away with it. My Lucians just clear the waves by themselves, which is nice. Now, they don't have enough damage to clear this with these two AoE abilities, which is a huge problem because it means the AI can screw up. So there is room for Lucians to get stronger, and Lucians are going to get stronger for PvP anyway. So that's not something I was concerned about because my Lucians are always going to have really high priority runes just for PvP stuff. Also, that's my second Lucian isn't max skilled on his amp magic, so that's an efficiency thing. But again, skill up's not something I'm worried about. What I'm worried about right now specifically is damage output when we get to the boss, because this is the only place the team struggled. What's super important, what I've been doing is I've been focusing all my Devilmon, yes, it's a nat 4, but I've been focusing all my Devilmon into Sabrina because, of course, I need the maximum chance to defense break. And here's the damage we do on the boss. We just barely kill it, which is really scary for me because it means if Sabrina doesn't land the defense break on her very first attack with her first or second skill when she teams up with one of the Talias, it means that we're losing massive damage output, and it means that we're not going to clear the boss and we're likely going to die. So what I'm working on right now is just getting a ridiculous amount of attack into these units. But I'll show you guys the stats because technically this was a successful run. Now again, one of the biggest issues is that not this Lucian, but this Lucian is missing a skill up on his amp magic, which is important. We're probably going to solve this in the upcoming event. But it means that wave, the wave right after the mid boss, where we should kill the mid boss, we we don't have the Ant Magic. And if we have the Ant Magic there, it just saves us time. It just saves us, 5 or 10 seconds worth of killing those ads because we didn't have the AoE up. So again, that's solved with skill ups. The biggest thing I ran into was actually Sabrina not having enough skill ups, because the harmful effect rate on this defense break on her first and second skill is essential. 60% harmful effect rate on her second skill, and it goes up to 75% on her first skill, which is why I've been devil mining her. Also, the damage increase is kind of massive. 35% damage increase on her first skill alone. To put that in perspective, and this is the skill she's going to be using when Talia takes her turn and attacks. That's essentially like having an extra 35% crit damage on your unit. So if you're missing out on that extra damage, it's like missing crit damage. It's like missing substats worth, for 2 or 3 runes worth of well-rolled crit damage. So, it all adds up. Skill ups are really important. Crit rate is really important. If you guys are trying to build this team yourself and you want to avoid some of the mistakes I made, if you can, shove as much crit rate onto them as possible. If you're using them in Giants, you want 100% crit rate, because the most important thing about this team is that it is reliable, because there's no point in making a 30-second team if it's going to be 30-second team and then it's going to fail 2 times and then be 30-second team again, because it's just a waste of energy at the end of the day if you're doing it like that. This amount of damage has been okay with her. She's got a lot of room for improvement in terms of grinds and enchants, so that's kind of nice. We could get rid of... we don't really need too much speed here, which is the thing, because the speed tuning is also really important. You want your 2 Lucians to move. Then I like to have my Sabrina move, because she's got two different ways to decrease defense, but also if she moves first, her second skill, attack breaks, which could potentially buy you an extra turn on the Giants boss stage, and it could mitigate some damage at the mid-boss stage if your team derps. So I'm trying to think about, if my team screws up, what's going to help me. But you can see there's room for grinds and enchants in a lot of these runes, which is really, really nice. This rune can just be probably replaced eventually, even though it's a legend rune. The inbuilt crit rate just kills it. But here are the stats on my 2 Talias. They're very similar. The difference is actually like 20% crit damage on them, but in terms of attack, they're very, very similar. In terms of speed, they're only 5 off. We're not worried about speed, like I said. Ideally, I guess we would have them a little bit faster just in case, so we could lap the boss even more. But again, that's not something I'm worried about. I'm worried about having just massive amounts of damage. And right now I'm in raids because I'm hoping that the grinds and enchants are going to help push me into making this team work. Also, shield runes are really important. I haven't gotten the shield runes yet. They're not as important for Giants or Dragons, but they're going to be important for Necro. And I think if I get good enough grinds and enchants and I start getting better upgrades for these monsters from Giants, then I will run this team in Dragons too and get these twins on shield runes, because that also means I'll be freeing up some of my fatal and blade runes. And I didn't think I was going to say this anytime soon, but all of this leads me to my next Lucian. This is because with these 2 Lucians being optimized and speed tuned for dungeons, I could have a fast Lucian or I could have a speed Lucian that I use for PvP, which is pretty cool, because it means that I don't have to increase the rune quality of the PvE units in order to match PvP, because then it gets weird, because then not only does a Lucian have to be fast, but it also has to have stupid amounts of damage, because it still has to one-hit waves in Giants, Dragons, and Necro. So it'll be nice if I end up building that 3rd Lucian to work on that. Other than that, you guys saw the raid team. You guys saw all the runes and stuff like that. In terms of other monsters that I plan on building in the future, I do have all the pieces for Fire Panda, all 5-star right now, but I don't think I'm going to build Fire Panda. However, if I do, it's going to take the slot of Belladon, because it's also a defense breaker. He brings even more debuffs, so we can more reliably get the attack speed, attack break, and glancing hit, I believe, on the boss with the 3rd skill, which is pretty nice. Theo's working in the team right now. Ideally, we'd have Water Kung Fu Girl in there just because of her damage output. It's just way better. But right now, Theo's actually been working pretty well. I'm surprised that Theo on this really, really awkward build is working, HP crit damage attack, on really bad runes. I mean, this rune has nothing going for it. It has like no substats. In fact, the fact that it rolled double max roll crit damage is crazy, but all the other flat stats as substats is kind of ridiculous. But if we can replace Theo in the future, that might be nice. We're playing around with some stuff. Maybe Wind Vampire, maybe a Rang for some debuffs, but that's what I've been working on for this account. It's pretty much been raid. We recently cleared TOA normal, and I'll show you guys. Hopefully it does not have the team here. I actually cleared TOA normal with almost completely with these twins, because it's kind of insane having the at least you get to choose one target. That might be misinterpreted with the skill. You get to choose one target that you guaranteed stun. So no matter what, screw the accuracy resistance check. It's a guaranteed stun. And when you're using Maruna and Shina in like TOA, it's kind of crazy. The amount of stuns and attack bar reduction you get. They're on terrible stats, which means they die super easily in TOA hard. But in the future, they're going to be runed up for probably TOA, just because they make it so easy, so stupid easy to clear, and it's just one less headache to worry about each month. So going forward, I'll probably work on giving these girls better runes. They're on like the 5th and 6th set of like, you know, crit rate, attack, and speed based Swift runes. So their rune quality is not amazing. But that's it for this video, guys. If you have any questions or comments, of course, leave them down below. Are you guys working on any teams, like speed teams or anything with hard rune requirements and any walls that you're hitting? Let me know. I'm always curious about what kind of progression you guys are going through. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, it's West again. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more.